Hello, I'm the Eternal Newbie. The XL is for lazy. As in the DM from our first story, sure is lazy. Which would not be as big of a problem if he wasn't a paid DM. And that's not even the worst thing about him. That's right. Today in our first story, we have the tale of the gaslighting lazy DM, one who didn't seem to care if his players are having a good time or not. That's where we'll spend the majority of our focus today. Our second story is kind of the opposite. The DM is great and handles things exactly like a good DM should, but has a problem player to deal with. Let's get to it. So to start, this is not a typical horror story, and I want to make clear, I am not sure if I did something wrong, something that I could fix in the future, etc. With that, here we go. No trigger warnings, I think. So I am a newer TTRPG player. I have played Warhammer RPG and D&D, but mostly as a DM because none of my friends want to do it. I was looking around online and discovered VTT. Thought it was cool, but I couldn't find a lot that are not paid. In university, not a lot of monies. Found a paid Curse of Strahd on Start Playing. The DM seemed cool at first, engaging, passionate, and had a great vibe running horror games. It was $20 a session, and I was excited to finally be a player instead of always DMing. I wasn't happy about the price, but honestly was just happy to play. In hindsight, I should have kept looking for free games. The campaign started off nice. Slow, but nice. The session was scheduled for 3 hours a week. So totally cool. We ended up getting to Death House, I think it's called. Anyway, that's where the issues start to arise. The party consists of me, Cleric, PB&J, married in real life and in-game bard/artificer, R, monk, and the DM, L. PB&J and L have families and kids. And all that. And I totally couldn't really care either way, you know. But when we cancel sessions 6 minutes before the game starts because of kids or ending sessions an hour into the game because of family, it starts to become frustrating. Now look, I think it paints me in a bad light. And truly, I know this is a game and normally wouldn't care. But this didn't just happen once. Or even twice. On top of that, it was a paid game. And when games end early, we still got charged. Truly. I feel bad for even writing this because I know life happens. Death House took us 10 sessions to get through. And that's not counting canceled ones. At a certain point in those sessions, I asked L if I could get a lower charge because I'm in university. He agreed. I ended up justifying paying for a game like I would going to see a movie a week. And again, was finding it difficult to find decent tables online. L lowered it to $10. To be fair, I should have said I appreciate the reduction, but this isn't working. But I thought, man, I'll have to find another game. I like the DM and the group when they play, and L is giving me a discount. I ended up staying. My cleric at the end of it gets a cloak of protection and a +2 shield, and we beat Death House. I'm very happy, and we end up going to Barovia next. For the next 3 weeks, the game seems like it was back on track. No cancellations, no issues. At this point, we were, spoiler, investigating a vampire in a church or something. Anyway, then, this is what the next 8 weeks looked like. Week 1, canceled due to ear infection. Week 2, played but shortened 1 hour. Week 3, shortened again for work reasons, 1 hour 30 minutes. Week 4 to 5, played normally. Week 6, PB&J couldn't make it so canceled, and later DM admitted he would have canceled anyway. Week 7, canceled. Week 8, played and it was I'm just kidding, they canceled. This time 10 minutes before the game for a migraine. So 8 weeks in, only 2 full sessions. And it wasn't just the DM. PB&J were flaky too, but the DM kept saying he'd fix it, that we'd be back on track. Still, the game felt like it was slowly falling apart and we were already on the verge of another cancellation. Look, I get real life comes first, and if I ever get one, it's totally going to be that way for me too. But this is ridiculous. 2 full sessions in 2 months? Not to mention 4 cancellations? I have nothing against DMs getting paid. It is a lot of work to be a good DM. But if I'm paying someone to run a game for me, they need to be running that full game. They can't cancel the game a few minutes beforehand. Just think about if other people did their jobs that way too. Like your surgeon quits halfway through because he's just not feeling it. Not to mention, if your job was D&D and you got paid to run games, you are basically getting paid for something you love. That's better than most of us can say. OP is really nice and doesn't want to blame the DM. I, however, have no such inhibitions. This is 100% on the DM. If you take the pay, you gotta let him play. If a couple of players don't show, on the game must go. I stuck around because I genuinely like the DM and my group. But I also paid for this and looked forward to playing all week. It became discouraging to have it canceled again and again with no real plan in place. At this point, I should mention we are at, spoiler, Strahd attacking Barovia, week 4 or 5 onwards, and want Ismark's sister. The DM presents it in an interesting way. We got to draw battle plans for the upcoming attack. It seemed cool. The party elected to split. 2 going to the right side of town, 2, me, being on the left defending the sister. Everything worked out great, then crap hit the fan. Strahd came down on a flaming chariot, dropped off an elf dude on the left side of town, then summoned a giant pile of zombies to make a mega zombie and attacked. The other player with me, the bard, needed to go get the others from the right side of town. So it was to me alone to defend against the hordes and the giant zombie. I get knocked out by the elf dude while trying to do what I could. I failed 2 death saving throws in a row and session ends. On that cliffhanger. Been almost a month since we played. Since then, I was told to make a backup character. I was fine with it. Wanted to play something else anyway, an Oathbreaker Paladin. The idea was to be the brother of my cleric, serving the same god. He breaks his oath because cleric is gone, and wants revenge on the elf. Commander dude. Left everything else open. Maybe made him a bit edgy, but like Oathbreaker Paladin and a fallen Aasimar, so duh. Sent the sheet to L. Asked if it was okay, and if it was, and if it was okay if I could have Splint, and if I could at least have some of the items my cleric had. I said I totally understand if you don't. It might be a little broken. L says, no, you're good. It's your items. Everything else seems good. That was the only comment on the character. Only reason I mentioned this is because he had other criteria to build characters like fears, which I think is from the module, and anything else. I didn't pay it any mind though, since he said it all looked good, and even said I could keep the stuff. Anyway, a little under a month passed. Then, what would have been week 9, PB&J posted in the Discord saying they won't be able to play for at least a month or 2 and ask us to wait. I, with little communication and the cancellations, I've had enough. I send a really respectful message to L. I'll drop the gist of it here. I love the game and your DMing, but with the amount of cancellations and no real progress, it's getting harder to justify the time, cost, and energy. If it helps to restart or bring in new players, I'm open to that. But if we're just going to keep waiting for people to be ready, maybe you need to replace me. He called me to talk it out and seemed chill. Said we were back on track. I believed him. It seemed all was well, and we ended the voice chat with him saying, hey MF, don't leave. I took it as a joke, but maybe in hindsight? I don't know. Suddenly he asked for my backup character. I said I sent it already. He said I didn't read it. I sent it again, frustrated that he didn't even take the time in almost a month to glance at it. He then says, it's main character syndrome, in regards to the backstory, and a cheap way to be OP in regards to my inventory. My normal paladin had an AC of 18 with shield, I think. 19 with splint. Methinks the DM doth complain too much. The DM knows OP isn't happy, so he's going to make it look like OP was the unreasonable one. He's looking for any little thing he can complain about, so when OP does eventually leave, which we all know he's going to do, he'll have something to fall back on saying, see, it wasn't my fault. That guy was just totally unreasonable. I just looked at Start Playing's website, where OP found this DM, And notice they have a DM rating system. You just know the DM was doing all this so he could change OP's rating of him, knowing it was going to be bad. Which he totally deserved. OP, if you happen to see this, and you haven't left a rating already, you should do that now. Let people know what kind of DM they are spending their hard-earned money on. He claims that he never approved it, and giving me those items would be cheap and encourage others to off their OG characters to get OP. And he never said I could have them. I scrolled up to the chat and tagged him in him literally saying, "Yes, of course it's your items. I don't care." Even though I'd been transparent the whole time and was literally just trying to connect it with the ongoing story. He then gets mad and says, I'm not going to haggle over AC. To be fair, I didn't message him this when I asked for the items. It would be kind of OP. I would, with the inventory of my cleric, have an AC of 22 at level 3. L says, it's whatever. I'll just have all enemies have AoE attacks and attack the party. And you can't do anything about that. I said it seems like you're not liking the character. That's why I sent it to you weeks ago. And was even told it was cool. I don't have main character syndrome. I am legit just trying to find a connection from my old PC to the new. But I can change things or make a new character or even not take those items when I do. What can I do? Which was met with silence. He ghosted reading the character sheet until the night before the game, and then when I asked about it, he brushed it off and acted like I was trying to steal the spotlight. That kind of stung. I reached out to R, the monk, who I'd been messaging with the situation for months, being upset about the whole state of the game. He ultimately said, just do what L says. At this point, I had messaged L saying, what can I do? And he finally replies, session tomorrow. Be there. I think that sent me over the edge. At that point, I was done. I messaged R, who was on the fence of leaving too, that I was done. I then sent this to L. Hey. After thinking about it, I realized I've been feeling really discouraged and not super excited to keep going. I still really appreciate your work as the DM, and I've enjoyed the campaign, but I think I need to step away from this one. No hard feelings at all. I just want to play in a group where I feel more energized and engaged again. Thanks for everything. L replies, ow, okay, and immediately I got banned. From the server, blocked on Discord, and apparently the party members blocked me too. Just gone. After months of sessions, jokes, and time together, it was like I never existed. Knowing Discord, it is likely the other players didn't block him, but when he got booted from the server, they no longer shared a server, so he couldn't message them anymore. Depending on their settings on Discord, of course. I don't know. Maybe I was asking for too much. Or maybe I didn't communicate enough that I was totally open to adjusting the character. Working with whatever fit best. I just wanted to be a part of the story and play the game like everyone else. In hindsight, should have probably known better than to do a paid game and kept looking for a free table. I was just tired of looking. If anyone reading this thinks I messed up somewhere, I am genuinely open to hearing it. I wasn't trying to be difficult, and I'm not just here to complain. I more want to understand and maybe share an experience if someone else has any similar situation as I was. I don't know. I just wanted a consistent table where I could roll some dice and have some fun, just like the rest of us. Anyways, thanks for hearing my book. OP, let me tell you something. You did nothing wrong. I can usually tell when someone is leaving out details in these stories to make themselves look better, and I don't get that feeling here. If the DM wasn't paid, I'd have a whole lot more sympathy for him. But seeing as how he decided to charge money for his services, then this is all on him. If you're going to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. And not just walk the walk 25% of the time. If anything, I would say OP was too patient. This DM knows what he was doing was wrong. And he was looking for any way he could find to justify it. Even if it meant gaslighting OP into thinking he was the problem. This can't be normal, can it? I mean, I have no experience with paid DMs, but they can't all be like this, can they? If you've had experience with this kind of thing, I'd love to hear about it. Drop me a comment letting me know. Alright, I think we've had enough of this story. Let's move on to story 2. I just had a session 0 for a new Daggerheart game set in ancient Greece inspired by Homer's writings and other epics from that time. All of us are experienced with TTRPGs, but none, apart from the GM, have played Daggerheart itself. Well, when we start pitching character ideas, that guy takes issue with all of them. I decided to make a seraph, a holy protector, basically a paladin or cleric, but notably are not necessarily bound by an oath, who had betrayed their duty in order to save somebody close to them and entered a self-imposed exile as penance. Well, that guy complains that paladins can't break their oaths like that without falling, so I can't play a character like that. I point out that I am not playing a paladin in D&D, but a seraph in Daggerheart, and the DM agrees with me, so he drops it. I thought that would be it. That was not it. Another player decides on a witch who learns the basics of magic from Artemis as a child and uses a bow to fight in honor of her goddess. That guy starts complaining about a spellcaster using a weapon and how witches should use magic through a staff to fight instead of how the witch's player doesn't understand witches if he thinks they could ever use a bow. The witch's player tells him that it's his character and doesn't have to follow tropes. Then the last player decides to play a warrior who is a demigod son of Hephaestus. Hephaestus? Something like that. Again, guess what? You guessed it, that guy took issue with it. This time he complains about the character having a magical backstory when warriors aren't supposed to have magic. And the warriors supposed to be regular people who stepped up instead of because they have magic in their veins. At that point, GM had enough and tells that guy that he isn't a good match for our table. But before he is removed from the server, he goes on a big rant yelling about how we are a stain on role-playing for not knowing anything about how classes are supposed to be played. That feels better, doesn't it? We don't have to worry about a bad DM gaslighting a player. Just a player who thinks he knows better than everyone else and isn't afraid to let them know. I'm sure most of us have played with a know-it-all like that at some time. I'm betting that guy was a self-appointed expert on ancient Greece and TTRPGs, and just trying to be helpful. You know, by pointing out everything everyone did in a negative and extremely non-helpful manner. I wouldn't even call this one a horror story. The DM saw the problem and took care of it. It really was that simple. But enough from me. What do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in comment form, or tell me anything. I love getting comments and always read them all. Likes are likewise appreciated. And if you're new around here, how about a sub? I'm not going to say my self-esteem is locked into my sub count, but I'm not going to say it isn't either. In any case, thank you so much for watching, and especially making it to the end, and as always, play your character. Don't let your character play you. Or I guess you could be like the guy in the last story and play everyone's character.